I have some good news and I have some bad news. This past weekend, it was unseasonably warm. We got kind of a false spring and it was around 60 degrees. So whenever that happens, I go outside to check on the hive because typically when there's warm weather, they'll be doing what they call a cleansing flight, coming out of the hive and cleaning themselves up. But when I got out to the hive, it was silent. So I opened up the hive to do an inspection and I found no bees. There were no bees in the whole hive, maybe like 8 on the bottom board, which really only can mean one thing. Typically when a hive collapses, there's lots of dead bees inside the hive itself and it's very sad. But if they left, even though it was cold outside, that's different than when they swarm because there's not enough space in the hive and they do that in the summer. This is called absconding and they typically do it in late fall, and it's almost always caused by varroa mites, which are a really common mite inside of a beehive. And if you miss, like I did, that the infestation has gotten so bad, they will abscond the hive in an effort to try to escape the mites, even though they know it's too cold for them to really reestablish at that point in the year. So this probably happened late autumn and I missed it. So at this point, the bottom 2 brood boxes are empty and the top supers still have honey. Which brings me to the good news, which is that I've been planning to share a lot more beekeeping content with you, and it's going to be starting a bit earlier than I had planned. We're mostly talking about garden planning right now, but because of this situation that I uncovered, even though it is snowing outside, we're gonna get some honey extraction done. It's kind of like, I see it as like the last step in beekeeping, so I'm a little apprehensive about sharing it as like the first step because I really want to walk you through every step of it, from installation to inspection to bee dynamics. But this is where we're at. I also tweaked a muscle in my neck the other day, so if you notice me wincing or seeming really stiff, that's why. And on top of the pain that I'm experiencing in my neck, I don't like extracting the traditional way in general because it's very strenuous. We do have a hand-powered extractor that we've used in the past, but I really don't want to do that, especially because it's snowing outside. That's really an outdoor only activity and it's very cold out and not an ideal time of year to be doing honey extraction. I am sad about the bees. It's very upsetting when you lose a hive. I mean, there's literally tens of thousands of bees in there. Unfortunately, this happens quite often, if not from varroa mites, from colony collapse. And so we typically go into the year assuming that we're gonna need to buy a new package of bees, and I will be buying one in the next couple of weeks. But if you don't have an extractor or you don't like using it because it's so strenuous, there is another method from the time before extractors existed called crush and strain, and it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. So I'm gonna finish up my tea and then I'm gonna head to the basement and grab some of those frames and we'll get started. Don't be scared, it's okay. They're just buckets. They're just buckets. The basic idea is that we're going to remove the honey from the frames using our dough cutter, put it into our first bucket with the spigot, smash it up with this, and then we just have to let it drain from that first bucket into the second bucket. I quickly realized what a terrible idea it was to do that on the ground because between my neck and my back, it's going to be very strenuous. These are really heavy actually. And I also realized that the dough cutter that I was going to be using for this, because these honeycombs are really aged because they've been reused through multiple seasons by different hives, it wasn't cutting through as easily. So I have my hive tool here. This is something every beekeeper has. It has blades at one end, and that's one of the main reasons you might not want to do this crush and strain method, because it does make it so that the bees have to do more work next year to make new honeycomb. But in this case, because I suspect that there were mites, I don't want the newbies that I order to use this honeycomb. You also tend to get more waste where there's honey left over and spilling off that doesn't end up making it to your jars. If it's not super tough, sometimes you can cut out cute little sections. They make great gifts. I don't think we're gonna have much luck with that with this one. So basically all I'm gonna be doing is smashing these cells and scraping them into my bucket. So I had 2 supers worth of honey, but I think we're only gonna be able to use about 1 super's worth, which is like 8 frames. A bunch of the frames just did not look clean. These frames have a plastic divider in the center, which is meant to help the bees form uniform hexagons. So I can't just punch straight through. I'm actually hitting a plastic wall in here. And we'll get into more of the benefits and the pros and cons of different types of frames with the new bees. It's also a really good idea to keep a damp cloth nearby because this is a very sticky process. Sometimes you just have to embrace the mess though, right? If you were extracting this with an extractor, you would use a capping tool to just take this top layer off like that, and it exposes the honey in the cells. And then you can use the extractor to actually pull the honey out of the cells without damaging the cells. I wish you could smell this, it smells so good. The rest of these frames scraped out, and then I'll show you how we're gonna crush the honey a little bit to make sure it's really broken up and strains more easily, and what I do to make it strain faster, because this can take days, especially this time of year where it's really cold. But I have a plan I'm hoping will help speed things up. Next, I would tell you to take this and smash it into the comb, but honestly, I don't think it needs it. I'm just gonna cover this up and then we can go strain it. It's been a little bit less than 24 hours. I'm pretty sure we've gotten all of the honey that we're going to get out of this comb. It's just dripping really, really slowly now, but I had it in front of the fire to really warm it up and get out as much of the honey as possible. Actually got more than I thought we would. It's up to, you can kind of see the line right there. I think it's gonna be like 20 pounds, but we'll weigh it and see. Now I need to scrape all of this out outside, clean out this barrel, and move the honey from in here into this one because this is the only one with this spigot, so I can put it in jars. You guys want a treat? This is not it. I'll go get you some peanuts. So this came out to 18 pounds of honey, which I'm honestly really happy with. I'm kind of surprised considering it was only like 1 super's worth, but that's great. Lots of honey for us. This is just such a gift. I'm so lucky to have bees, and I'm so sad that we've lost this hive, but I can't wait to get the new hive in and share with you the whole process of beekeeping. This is the end result. This is what makes it all worth it. So although we're kind of starting at the end, it shows you just what you have to look forward to when you start beekeeping. So thanks for gardening with me, and happy growing.